There is a pattern emerging which concerns me. I'm going to just walk you through this today. We'll do something a little bit different with the videos and see what you think. Is Facebook being honest with the Oversight Board? My name is Chris, and as you know, I used to be a content moderator at Facebook. We've been making these videos to try and help people understand how content moderation works by looking at the decisions that the board has made. But something really troubling is starting to emerge, and we're going to spend the rest of this video just taking a closer look. So the first one was the case we looked at a few weeks ago where somebody had posted some female breasts and Facebook had deleted them because it doesn't like breasts and completely missed the point that it was about cancer awareness. And then when the Oversight Board got involved, Facebook immediately said, "Oh, sorry, it's a mistake. It was an AI, it was a computer that made the error because all the moderators are at home because of COVID and it won't happen again. And it's okay, you don't have to look, just move along, forget about it, don't get involved." And the board insisted on getting involved, but they didn't really question this issue of whether the content moderators were at home or whether they were at work. And I had to kind of make that extra little bit of video talking about how moderators have been forced to come back to work. So this is a case where Facebook basically just tried to make the problem go away. It was nobody's fault, it was just a computer, you don't need to get involved. They really tried to avoid scrutiny. And the next one was in India, where we've got this recurring tension between the rights to freedom of speech and political expression versus praise, support, representation for dangerous organizations or for terrorist groups and so forth. And in this case, Facebook has deleted something, the user has appealed, and when the board gets involved, Facebook immediately says, "Oops, no, somebody's made a mistake, it wasn't us, just one of the content moderators made an enforcement error, a wrong decision." And then the board has had a closer look and they've agreed, yes, that shouldn't have happened, must have been that guy's fault. Well, you know, we need to get more moderators, more time, more people working. And this is during COVID-19, you've got 40,000 people being forced to come to work in the middle of a pandemic, and the board is just saying, well, we need to get more of those guys and we need to make sure they're all in the office. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but that's not the issue. And then we have the case of a convicted terrorist who's been held in solitary confinement. And somebody has posted, well, doesn't this guy have any human rights? Is it inhumane to keep somebody in isolation for many, many years? And Facebook deleted this as praise, support, and representation for a terrorist. The user appealed, the board had a look, and Facebook immediately just said, "Oops, no, it's okay, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to talk about the conditions that people are being held under in prison." But the content moderator who looked at it initially, well, they made a mistake. Actually, it was reviewed twice, so there were two content moderators who made a mistake. Facebook didn't. And this is what we're seeing over and over. Facebook is not taking responsibility for what's happening. It's always somebody made a mistake. I was a teacher for many years. If everybody is making the same mistake over and over, you need to teach them something different. You need to change what you're doing as the boss if you want to get a different result when lots of people are doing the same thing wrong over and over. And the same again with the next one. Somebody in the Middle East has made a threat of violence, it's been reported in the news, somebody has posted that news story on their Facebook page and Facebook has deleted it because they think that it is repeating the threat. And then the board has got involved and immediately Facebook has just said, "Oh no, sorry, that was a mistake. The content moderator did the wrong thing." Two content moderators, because everything gets reviewed by at least twice before it ever makes it to the board. So again, they're pushing the blame down. They're not asking, why does this keep happening? And then we have one in Canada where an artist has created commentary on some of the historical crimes and injustices suffered by the indigenous peoples of North America, and this has been deleted as hate speech by Facebook. And quite interestingly, the board commented on this one. They said, "Two separate moderators concluded that this post constituted hate speech. Meta was not able to provide specific reasons why this error occurred twice." So Facebook has immediately recognized, oh no, it's not hate speech, and they've taken it down, but they can't explain why these mistakes keep happening. And then we have one in Ethiopia where Facebook has deleted something because it seems like it's inciting violence, it's supporting people who are perpetrating violence. The board has got involved, and Facebook has looked and said, oh, this is another one of those cases where really it's political expression, this is somebody commentary on what's going on. So they've reinstated the post, they've republished it, and the board has gone in and dug in. And the board came back and said, what? No, the content moderators didn't make a mistake this time. You were wrong to blame them. This post actually was inciting violence, and that moderator was correct. Now tell me again why you reinstated it. Why did you republish that post? And Facebook hadn't got an answer, because it seems like they're not actually applying firm principles here. They're just panicking whenever the board get involved. They're blaming people further down the food chain, the low-paid guys who are not properly supported and not properly trained, obviously. They're blaming them, and then they're republishing anything that might be a bit contentious to avoid upsetting the board. And this time they got caught. Last one, this was somebody in a support group for people with a certain medical condition, and they tried to start a conversation like, how do I talk to my doctor about this particular medicine that I think is probably best for me? And Facebook deleted that because you're not allowed to buy and sell drugs on Facebook. You're not allowed to talk about where to buy drugs. And this looks like over-enforcement. Again, this looks like a content moderator has made a decision. Two content moderators have made the wrong decision because obviously it's already been reviewed at once and the first decision was approved. What I think is happening here is that people like me, I've done this job, we have to follow a very, very specific and tightly written set of rules, which sometimes force us to make decisions that we don't really agree with. And then along comes the Oversight Board and tries to impose a little bit of common sense and says, oh, wait a minute, look what you're doing there. And Facebook just panics and blames the moderator instead of saying, maybe that's the way that we've written our rules. Maybe that's the way that we've trained people. We can't do that. It's not our fault. It's their fault. So what can we conclude from all this? Well, I don't think it's just in my imagination. The Oversight Board's own transparency report at the end of last year states that on about half of the cases they investigated, Facebook has turned around and said, oops, that was an enforcement error, somebody's made a mistake, and we've republished the content. So this is definitely happening a lot. And the board just seems to accept these statements without really making any comment. But I want you to imagine that you are in Africa, you're in Nairobi working for $1.50 an hour as a content moderator, and then your boss comes to talk to you and he's just had a phone call from Silicon Valley and somebody's really upset because the Oversight Board wants to know about one of the decisions that you've made and now it's your fault. And do you get the chance to defend yourself? What impact does this have on your future career, your future reputation within your organization? It seems to me that the board really needs to pay much closer attention to the truth or otherwise of this claim, because content moderators are working to a different set of rules than the one that the board seems to be referring to. And it would be good if they could just look and go, okay, we don't like your decision, but we see why you did it. It's because of the rules you've been given. But let me give you a completely different interpretation. What if Facebook is telling the truth? Think about this. I used to review 100 pieces of content every hour. That's thousands every week. And there are 40,000 people around the world doing this job today. So that is millions and millions of pieces of content being reviewed with typically an error margin of around 2%. So 2% of those decisions are going to be wrong. Now, if all of those people appeal those decisions, bring them back, they get reviewed, and again, 2% of the reviews are incorrect, then that still leaves tens of thousands of mistakes that are slipping through the net every week. And if they then come to the Oversight Board can't solve all of those problems. They're just going to pick the most interesting ones. And let's have a look at that one, because it looks like Facebook have done something really stupid. And it might not be Facebook, it might just be the individual and the next individual who happened to screw it up. And in that case, that means that the board is really wasting their time because they're not looking at anything that's representative of how things are done at Facebook. They're just picking a few random examples of people who screwed up. So we really need a bit more clarity about what's going on, and I do urge the board to pay a little bit more attention to these claims and find out, is it the moderators or is it Facebook themselves? So there you go. That's my little rant for this week. Please do tell me what you think. Get down into the comments section below, give me your opinion, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Now there's always one more thing, and this time it's a really bizarre claim that Facebook made. It was the case where the guy has been convicted of terrorism and he's in jail and he's in solitary confinement, and the discussion about whether or not you can talk about his condition. And Facebook said, well yeah, we do have an exception to the policy which allows specifically this kind of conversation. However, we've lost it. And apparently they lost it back in 2018 when they were transferring the policy from the old system to the new system. But I worked for Facebook in 2017, 2018 on the old system. That policy never existed. I don't remember that ever happening. I can't find anything in any of my notes or internal records. There's nothing there. It never happened. And they said that when they switched over after I had left, that's when they lost it. Well, it wasn't there before I left, guys. So, maybe it existed on somebody's computer somewhere. Maybe it was written. Maybe you've just pulled this out of your ass. I don't know. But the statement made to the Oversight Board appears to be untrue.